amidst the mundane news of the day, The Age reported a pivotal moment for Lauriston Girls' School. The acquisition of its own grounds, made possible by the support of parents and friends. This marked not just a change in ownership, but a testament to the enduring legacy of philanthropy at Lauriston. From scholarships to prestigious awards, each endowed with foresight by individuals like Mrs. Irving and Ms. Bull, the school has thrived, shaping the lives of generations. Today, as we honour this legacy, your support, whether immediate or through a lasting gift in your will, ensures Lauriston continues to provide transformative education, empowering future generations of young women to excel and to lead. Join us in securing Lauriston's future and be part of a tradition that spans nearly a century of educational excellence and community spirit. Hello everyone, my name is Gemma Acton. I'm a former Lauriston student. I graduated from Year 12 in 1998 and have extremely happy memories of the school. It's my great pleasure today to be talking to Dr. Mark Roberts, who has been closely involved with Lauriston and the Lauriston community since his daughter Beatrice started at Sutherland House back in 2018. Mark has been actively supporting the school through roles in the Lauriston Parents Association and the Lauriston Foundation Board, where he now serves as an independent member. Mark has previously been part of the Fathers of Lauriston Committee and championed the It's Her Turn campaign to fund new sports and learning facilities. Mark is passionate about gender equality. He believes in providing every Lauriston student with the very best education and opportunities. He encourages families to engage in their children's education in ways that suit their circumstances, whether that's through volunteering, joining committees, or supporting fundraising efforts. Mark, it's fantastic to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to start with a personal question, if you don't mind. I think it's really important for everyone listening to understand a bit more about your own personal connection to Lauriston and what the school means to you.
Oh, thanks, Gemma. It's lovely to be with you here today. So I'm Mark Roberts, and my 9-year-old, or almost 9-year-old daughter is now in Year 3 at Lauriston. And we've been connected to the school since before my daughter was born. My wife and I have a very passionate view about education, not just academic education, but a well-rounded, individualised, almost humanistic education, so that you come out as a well-rounded individual who is capable of contributing to society, who has an understanding of themselves and their place in society, and who ultimately really want to have a successful career, but also a successful engagement with the community that they're in. And so we looked around at many schools in Melbourne, and there are some exceptional schools, but we were very drawn to Lauriston very early on, even before we knew we were going to have my daughter Beatrice. And so we found Lauriston to be a school that doesn't just provide academic excellence, but truly tries to be that school for life. And by that, I think it means having that well-rounded individual piece and that sense of belonging to community and that sense of being able to be independent and make meaningful change in where you go in life is what we were looking for. And so as soon as we knew that Beatrice was on the way, one of the best things that's ever happened to me, we instantly almost became even more connected to the school. We started to volunteer our time at the school. We started to get involved in the committees and the parents associations. And we've been, I guess to say, ramping up our involvement since Beatrice joined Lauriston back in Sutherland House days when she was a mere 2-year-old. So we're exceptionally, proud to be at Lauriston and enjoy being embedded in the school there.
Mark, are there any particular examples of Beatrice's time there that made you think, yes, we've judged Lauriston absolutely right. This is really the right school and the right community for Beatrice to be a part of?
Absolutely. I think the one that sticks to mind is her experience in the ELC program. I think in the Year 4 program, they have a bush kinder program, and you go out every Friday to a rural retreat, albeit not very far from Lauriston. But it's almost like a mini Hakwa. It's where these little kids get to go out, pick up sticks, explore nature, explore their interactions with their peers, have that independence and that growth mindset. And for us, that really embodies what Lauriston is about, that sense of wanting to push the girls to explore what they're capable of and also what they're not capable of. And that bush kinder experience, while it may seem very trivial, is actually quite a fundamental pointer for what that school is trying to do. And so we were very encouraged by that program because we could see what Hakwa is going to mean for girls in the year 9. We could see that positive interaction of students and staff, and that whole mindset piece of a really robust education from start to finish.
I had the misfortune of arriving at Lauriston just after my year at level had completed Halkwa, and it's an enduring disappointment of my life because it's all we heard about for the next few years. And then both of my younger sisters did it, and it really was a tremendously formative experience. And so it's fantastic to hear that there's a junior version as well now, because I can see how far that goes. Let's talk about other ways in which you and your wife contribute to the school. Firstly, thank you for all the volunteering you do. It goes a long way, as any busy parent or anyone who works at the school would know. But you are a philanthropic supporter as well of the school. Why did you make that decision? That's a very big decision to make.
Well, for me personally, I've come from a background where my parents are not wealthy. They were actually Polish migrants who fled out of essentially Soviet Europe. They came here and worked blue collar jobs, but they made a decision to put me through Melbourne Grammar School. And I saw how much that school changed my life, their life, and gave me an education that's not only very significant academically, but also that well-rounded piece. And if you look at the Melbourne Grammar story, a large part of that school is built on philanthropy. It's built on people making an investment in the future. And so part of the reason why we wanted to go to Lauriston is because that sort of ethos, that idea that you invest in the future and you give to the community that you're part of, is there at Lauriston. So even from a very early date in Lauriston's founding, it has a very strong history of the community and of parents giving to the school, not for their own benefit, but for the benefit of future generations. So quite literally, Lauriston is where it's at the minute because the parents at the turn of the century, from the 18th to the 19th to the 20th century, provided the school with contributions, with voluntary funds to allow the school to buy the land that it's on. And you see consistently throughout its history that staff, parents, past students contribute to the school. And so for me, it's incredibly important to be investing not only in what my daughter may experience during her time there, but in the future generations to come that are going to be there and are going to share her experience.
That philanthropic legacy that Lauriston has is rather extraordinary when you think about it, because certainly in decades gone by, girls' education hasn't been as highly valued as boys' education. And if you think about philanthropic efforts towards boys' schools and girls' schools, they're vastly different. And I would hope the gap is closing now, but it's exceptional to think that Lauriston families had the foresight and means to do that over such a long period. What do you think it looks like from here? Do you think girls' education will get the support that it needs financially more so?
Well, I think there's still a long way to go, unfortunately. I think boys' schools still receive more funds, more voluntary contributions and more support than girls' schools do, which is fundamentally, I think, a great tragedy because girls outperform boys on humanities and on your STEM, your hard science subjects. But nevertheless, I think by having this imbalance between what boys' schools receive and what girls' schools receive, it sort of reinforces a gender perception that girls only do certain roles, boys only do certain roles. And I think a big part of giving to Lauriston is to not only encourage other people to give as well, but really to fundamentally try and change that cultural shift. So if people are seeing that parents like myself are focusing their efforts on Lauriston rather than on boys' schools, it helps, I think, over time to change that culture of giving and that perception that girls' schools, for some reason, don't deserve as much as boys' schools.
You've been involved with the Lauriston Foundation Board. More generally speaking, what has that taught you about charitable giving?
Well, I've been on the Lauriston Foundation Board now for 5 years. And what struck me is the genuine passion, I think, of the people I work with on that foundation board and their interest in seeing the school and the girls succeed in the longer term. It's really all about most of the discussions I have on the foundation board are about the future. They're not about the present day. They're about what do we need to do in order to ensure that the girls who are born today are going to have a great education at Lauriston in 12 or 20 years' time. And so it's that passion for trying to further the Lauriston journey and the Lauriston community that I find really quite interesting and something that I'm passionate about contributing to as well.
The philanthropic efforts also geared towards expanding who has the privilege of a Lauriston education, because it is a magnificent school and a complete privilege, but not everybody, it's not an obvious path. Just as you said, it wasn't a given that you would be lucky enough to go to Melbourne Grammar. So how can the philanthropy open up the avenues for more people to come and join the school?
Yeah, so I think the reality is obviously Lauriston is a bit of a financial stretch for some families. And part of the work of the foundation, the Lauriston Foundation, is we have established scholarships to provide opportunities for girls from disadvantaged backgrounds who may not have the financial means to come to Lauriston. And we can only do that because of the generosity of the community at Lauriston, who is helping us to, in turn, provide a great education and a great life-changing experience, not just to the girl who receives the scholarship, but to their families as well. So I know Lauriston partners with the Friday Night School. The Friday Night School has a lot of girls who have come from, in some cases, quite traumatic backgrounds, whether it's war-torn parts of the world or from socio-economically disadvantaged families. And if you think about the impact that a Lauriston education, the Lauriston experience could make for that girl's story, it could be a fundamental change in how they see their future and in what they're capable of achieving. But it's also a change for their families, because their families, I think, will see a renewed sense of achievement and investment in where they are in life. Because if you see your kids succeeding and you see the possibilities that your children have, you are almost automatically endowed with this sense of wanting them to have even more of that opportunity. And I think it gives people and families more hope than they might not otherwise have had. So I think these scholarships are tremendously impactful, and they're only through philanthropy that they're happening.
I would say it goes even further than that, insofar as being in a class where you have people who have had extraordinary experiences like that, experiences that you haven't necessarily come across in your short life up until your junior years or your teenage years. It makes you realise as well what's possible, the strength of human spirit, how you can battle through adversity. So it actually broadens the whole Lauriston community.
Correct. And I think it also opens up understanding from other girls who are there at Lauriston who may, by sheer luck, have more, I guess, advantageous background to see the diversity of the community that we operate in, that not everybody lives in a luxury mansion or has a comfortable life. There are large parts of society that struggle, and having that diversity changes perspectives for the better, I think.
When I was at Lauriston, I was very heavily involved in the drama department, and so we did all sorts of Antigone and Midsummer Night's Dream, or two that spring to mind that were a lot of fun, and we spent a lot of time doing house drama, school drama, etc. Is there an extracurricular part of Lauriston which has impressed you?
I've always been drawn to the arts and humanities, and I think for me seeing the drama program at Lauriston is absolutely fabulous. The way you see junior school girls taking parts in what might seem quite trivial and fun performances. I think I saw one the other year of Aladdin, and that's fun, but it's also been done to a very professional standard when you actually go watch it. And there's a lot of dedication and a lot of time and effort that's being put in. And I like the way in the drama program at Lauriston, it helps. I think, people just become more confident in themselves because you're trying something where you are almost by definition put in the spotlight. And to see the number of girls take parts in these programs is just wonderful.
It's very good for your confidence and your independence. Obviously, key features that Lauriston wants to promote in its community. You would have had the opportunity to meet a lot of alumni, I assume, over the years with your involvement with the school for you and your wife. What to you does a Lauriston girl represent?
It's a very interesting question, and I'm going to answer it like this. When in my time, I guess over my career, I've encountered girls or women, I should say, from many different school backgrounds, and there are some girls I know who share a unique trait of going to one particular private school here in Melbourne, and they have a less rounded view of the world. And when I have seen Lauriston alumni, and I've seen the senior girls at Lauriston, the Year 12 girls, and I know some dads and hence their daughters, you can see that the girls that come out of Lauriston have a much more empathetic, humanistic, community-oriented perception of the world. And I think that is incredibly important because while it's good to be ambitious and it's good to be smart and it's good to be competitive, you want that to be balanced with a self-recognition of what others are doing, what you're doing, and that you're trying to help others, not necessarily outperform them all the time.
A lot of institutions have values, and some are more credible than others. You hear sometimes giant financial institutions talking about values that don't necessarily match up with the actions that they have. But Lauriston obviously has values, and it seems to me, as someone who went there, that they were clear and they matched what they said they were. That you could see them running through the school when I was there, which was in the late 1990s. And when I read back on Lauriston's history, it feels as though, unbeknownst to me at the time, they had been the same type of values which were there from the very founding days. Do you feel that? Do you feel that sense of people understand and live the values truly at Lauriston?
Look, absolutely. So my daughter's in the junior part of the school, and the motto there is care, share, respect. And I see it firsthand in the way my daughter embraces those values, but also she and her friends clearly embrace them on campus. And you can see that through the way they interact when you watch them after school playing in the playground. I hear it in the stories that the teachers tell me and that my daughter tells me. So I think absolutely those values are shown every single day. The walk is being walked and the talk is also being talked, but it is the right set of values, and they're absolutely being manifested in behaviours at the school.
Mark, you very clearly explained to us why it was important for you and your wife to support Lauriston financially, but it is a very major decision for people. Lots of competing interests for where to give your money while you're alive, but also where to leave it afterwards. What advice would you give to anyone who is thinking through making a bequest to Lauriston potentially?
Well, it is a big decision, I think, to leave a bequest in your will to anyone, let alone to Lauriston. For us, it was fundamentally about that real capacity to shape or help shape the future of Lauriston and to help consolidate the legacy that I'm hoping to leave my daughter and leave, the school as well. I think there are certainly each individual, I think, needs to explore whether a bequest is the right way to go for them or whether a gift or volunteering is the right way to contribute to Lauriston. The one thing I would say is when it comes to leaving something in your will, a bequest behind, it's not a difficult process. I know the school has become involved in an online capacity to leave something in your will. So it's not a daunting process by any means. So people, I think, shouldn't be scared about some sort of legal quagmire they're going to get into. It can be done incredibly simply. But really, for me and for anybody thinking about it, it's about what is it that you want to leave in your legacy. What do you want it to be? And I couldn't think of anything more powerful than quite genuinely giving other people in the future who I don't even know an opportunity to fundamentally change their lives through a Lauriston education.
Let's go into the technical aspects. You make a very good point. Often people think I would like to become involved, but they don't really know where to start. I imagine the first place to start is by getting in touch with the school itself. We have an extremely robust alumni committee, which I'm sure many people have been in touch with them already, but that's probably a good place to start. But also understand that Lauriston has recently partnered with Gathered Here, which is an online will service. Is that something you're across?
Yes, that's my understanding. So on our website, there are details as to how you can utilise that service, and it makes it incredibly simple to leave some legacy in your will towards Lauriston. It is not a daunting process.
Let's talk about the challenges of communicating the importance of philanthropy. I think particularly we know it's been a tough couple of years in the economy. Many people feel that money's not going as far, the times are tough, they're cutting back. So it's been a difficult time for charities or anybody looking to raise money. How do we broach that conversation? How do we help people to think longer term and bigger picture while of course attending first and foremost to their current needs?
Well, I think that problem or that challenge of the economic environment, I'm afraid, will only get worse. I think part of the challenge is explaining, I think, cohesively that in contributing to Lauriston, what you're contributing to isn't necessarily some sort of physical building or some sort of renewal of the campus. While those things are important, it's not the physical buildings that matter. It's the learning that those buildings enable that matter. And if you think about something like the new Alma Centre in Lauriston, that replaced an old gym. Now, the old gym was it functioned. So you could argue one hand maybe it didn't need to be replaced. But then you look at the new one, the new gym, and you realise that enables so much more extracurricular activities, so many more sporting opportunities. And so when people are thinking about should they give or shouldn't they give, it's not a matter of are you giving to support some piece of physical infrastructure. That is not what it's about. It's all of this stuff just enables learning and development to occur. And on the other side, if you're looking at supporting scholarships, well, scholarships are fundamentally all about giving people an opportunity who would otherwise simply not have it. So I think for us as a school, the opportunity is there to, I think, convey to people perhaps a little bit more clearly what impact philanthropy has on education, on opportunities, and on fundamentally the longer term prospects for women in Australia.
When I think back on my time at Lauriston, it's honestly hard to think of what I am most grateful for, to the extent where I almost take the extraordinary educational experience for granted because it was just there as the backbone and there were so many other things going on around, whether it was sports or drama, etc. And then I think I got married just under a year ago. So that was almost 25 years, almost a quarter of a century after I finished year 12, and still had a big contingent of Lauriston friends. And I've lived out of Melbourne since 1999. So it's not because I see them every day, but it's just because they're just incredible girls. You build a fantastic bond, and I assume that you see your daughter will end up in a similar
Well,
situation
Gemma,
down the track.
you're a walking example of school for life. It's not just about that education that keeps going, but you genuinely have those close-knit friendships that you want a good organisation, whether it's a workplace or a community club or in this case a school, to give you. And the fact that you're still seeing friends who you met 25 years ago is a great walking credit to what that school does.
And I would say it's a similar experience for both my sisters. They both lived out of Melbourne for decades now, and they are still extremely close to their school friends as well. So
nice to hear.
We feel very lucky for it. And we've talked about the benefits of supporting Lauriston in terms of any recipients of scholarships, etc. We've talked about the benefits of the Lauriston community from involving people from broader walks of life in the community. But let's talk about society at large, because I feel that the type of person that Lauriston strives to build in terms of open-minded and ambitious and independent, strong, confident, and just who tries as hard as they can, supportive, compassionate, caring, that's the kind of person society benefits from as well. So more broadly speaking, how does supporting Lauriston support society?
Well, I think Lauriston's, fundamental sort of objective in many ways is to create or help nurture, I should say, young women who come out of it with confidence, but also independence in the way they think about things. So, traditionally, up until, unfortunately, relatively recently, you could argue that a lot of women are unfortunately dependent on their husband's income or society's perceptions of what they can do. And Lauriston is really about challenging that and making it far more equitable in terms of society. Because if you have strong, confident women who are empathetic, but nevertheless able to exercise their independence in a meaningful way, you will change society over time. And I think that's certainly what I want for my daughter, and that's why I have my daughter there, because I truly believe that's what Lauriston will give her.
I think the challenge for me now is I live in Sydney at the moment, is trying to find a school like Lauriston. But two small girls, 2 under 2, who I need to start thinking about where they go. And I think I've identified one school that's quite similar to Lauriston, but certainly, in all honesty, my guiding principle was where's the most similar school to Lauriston that I can find. Mark, drawing up a will is something that a lot of people put off for longer than they probably should. It's quite confronting to actually, first of all, assess all your assets, but also face the prospect of you dying at some point, especially when you're younger. Nonetheless, things go wrong, and it's very important for people to have wills. What are some of the things people should think about when they're first deciding whether they should put a will together and what to do about it?
It's a very good point, Gemma. I think the stats are about less than half of the Australian population actually has a will, and most people don't even get around to doing a will, or if they do a will, they rarely update the will as their circumstances change. And one of the things that got us as a family thinking about a will was obviously as soon as we had our daughter Beatrice, the questions become, well, what happens if my wife and I are in a car crash and we both go? What happens to Beatrice? And so that prompted us to put a will together. And then over time, as Beatrice got older and circumstances in the wider family changed with deaths of parents or in-laws, you obviously have an opportunity to revise or rethink through your will. And for us, we use that as an opportunity to embrace a little bit more philanthropy through supporting Lauriston. But I think for regular, for the regular Australian, a key question I think is really about asking yourself, when's the right time to do a will? I think if you're a family with school-aged children, it's almost a necessity, I think, to have a will and to regularly assess it, because you have children and you do need to think through what happens if the unfortunate occurs. So I would take an opportunity for changes in your life as they come to think through whether your current will is fit for purpose, and obviously use that as an opportunity too to think through opportunities you might want to consider, whether it's to obviously put in ideally a bit of support for Lauriston, but otherwise thinking through what else your will can do for the future generations.
I spent many years as a financial journalist, and I know that many questions of finance are confronting to people in general, or people automatically think, oh, I don't understand, it's too complicated, etc. Wills, I absolutely imagine, fall into that category for many people, but it has got a lot easier these days. You can traditionally go to a financial advisor or a will advisor, as people always have done. You can also go online, and there's a lot of good resources there. And I'm sure that if you got in touch with Lauriston itself, they'd be able to point you in the right direction.
Absolutely. So Lauriston's partnered with an online will service, and I'm sure, 100% sure, that our Lauriston team can point you in the right direction. So Gemma, you're obviously an incredibly successful and talented former Lauriston girl with a beautiful family behind you. What's some of your thinking around the importance of financial independence for women, and what that means, not just for you, but for your family and for the wider Australian society?
I think what I've learnt over the years is that shocks and surprises can happen to anyone at any point. Some of the people who I know had the most stable marriages have very sadly divorced. Some of the people who were the healthiest and fittest have very suddenly become incapacitated, or terrible situations, died. Some people who had great jobs have lost them at certain points. They're all negative surprises. Obviously, positive surprises happen too. But if we think about protecting ourselves, people who never thought they might be in a difficult financial situation have been left in them, surprisingly. And it's just reinforced to me every step of the way, the more you can do to protect yourself, the better. So for me, that's an element of why I work. It's an element of making sure that if anything, God forbid, happens to my wonderful husband, then I'm able to look after myself. If anything happened to my parents and they needed my help, or my siblings, or a close friend, that I could jump in and help them as well. And then I'm always going to be able to give my daughters what they need in terms of support and education and anything else. So it's just never sitting back and thinking, gosh, I've done fine, I've got everything I want. It's always just making sure that that it's going to be okay. That's one side of it. The other side of it is I just really love being out there every day, speaking to people, having I get extraordinary opportunities. The people I get to interview, the executives I get to speak to. I was just talking to you, I'm doing a lot of work at the moment with artificial intelligence. That is just so exciting, being on the forefront of that, having meetings with Microsoft and Google and big players like that, traveling as a result of work. So all of this has enhanced my life so much. And for me, it's exciting that we get back at the end of every day and my husband and I catch up. We both have demanding jobs and we just talk about what we did that day. So that works wonderfully in my life, and I bounce out of bed at 5 o'clock every morning, just can't wait to get going. But for my Lauriston group of friends, some of my friends have careers, like I would call mine a career. Some have jobs. It's more just about keeping a routine and bringing in the money that they need to support the family, but not too stressful or demanding. And then other friends of mine, full-time mums or don't work at all. Whatever suits you, whatever makes you happy. I just think keeping your options open as long as possible is really important. Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise,
thanks so
Gemma,
much.
thank you.
Thank you so much for not just joining us today, but also for everything you do for the Lauriston community. And they're extremely lucky to have
That's very kind of you,
people
Gemma.
like
Thank
you and
you
your
very
wife
much.
involved. Thank you.